So welcome everyone to the January 11th, 2021 Grafton Board of Health meeting. Happy New Year, obviously, everyone. It's the first meeting that we've had since we switched over to 21. As a preliminary matter, this is Karen Gwiazdowski-Gobin, Chair of the Board of Health of Grafton. Permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Dan Finn.
Dan Finn here.
Austin Magnet.
Magnan is present.
Josh Briggs.
Josh Briggs here.
And William Muller.
Bill Muller's here, yeah.
All right, and then staff and anticipated speakers on the agenda. When I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Nancy Connors. No, she just texted me to say she was having trouble getting on, so she's going to try again. Julie Van Arsdalen from the Alliance. And then Danielle Edmonds from the Alliance. All right, so moving on, I'd like to open the meeting. Can we get a motion to open the meeting? Make sure, as always, state your name when making the motion.
Dan Finn, I'll make a motion to open this meeting.
Can we get a second?
Austin Magnan, I'll second that motion to open the meeting.
All right, and then we'll do a roll call vote. So Dan Finn.
Dan Finn, aye.
Austin Magnan.
Magnan, aye.
Josh Briggs.
Josh Briggs, aye.
And William Muller.
Bill Muller, aye.
And Karen Gwiazdowski-Gobin, aye. So good evening again. This open meeting of the Grafton Board of Health is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12th of 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of the COVID-19 virus, we've been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings, and as such, the governor's order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order, which you can find posted to the town's website at www.grafton-mass.gov, allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. On the agenda tonight, there are no public hearings scheduled for the meeting. For this meeting, the Grafton Board of Health is convening via video conference via Zoom, as posted on the town's website, identifying how the public may join. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that some attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that other folks may be able to see you and that you take care not to screen share your computer because, as you're well aware, anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. Any supporting materials and correspondence that's been received by the board prior to this meeting have been provided to members of the body and also are available on the town's website unless otherwise noted. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless I note otherwise. We're now turning to the first item on the agenda, but before we do so, I just want to cover a couple quick ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. I'll introduce each topic and any speakers associated to each topic on the agenda. After any remarks are concluded by said speaker, if there are any board members who wish to make a comment or question or any type of motion, obviously, we'll follow that process like we normally do. And then just a couple other ground rules to remember to mute your phone or computer when you're not speaking, so that way we don't have any background noise. And then also remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate meeting minutes. For any response, please wait until I, the chair, yields the floor to you, and then state your name before speaking, because not everyone might be watching on video, so they might not know who's speaking. And then if any members of the board wish to engage with other members, please do so through myself, the chair, taking care to identify yourself. And then finally, any votes taken during this meeting will be conducted by a roll call vote. All right, so let me just, before I jump in here, just want to see, oh, it looks like Julie from the Alliance is here. So let me just get her over so she can join us. All right. Julie, are you there?
Yes, I am.
All right, thank you. All right, so the first topic actually is the Alliance update. So no, beyond obviously COVID, et cetera, if there's anything, I think Danielle, Nancy had already sent over the inspections completed by Danielle from the Alliance as of the 8th. So I guess if any board members have any questions on those inspections. Dan, are you trying to say you're on mute, Dan, if you're talking?
Yes. Yeah, this is Dan. I'm not sure where First Bite is. Can anybody-
It's in South Grafton near the old Trek stop.
Oh, okay. It's a breakfast place?
The old location for breakfast at Stephanie's. Oh, not breakfast. Yeah, breakfast at Stephanie's.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the board members on the inspection report? Julie, do you?
Can you hear me?
Nope, now you're on mute.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay, so I just wanted to let you know that today, 17 firefighters and 2 police officers did receive their vaccination today. So I just, wanted to let you know that as well. And then the other thing is that we came close to vaccinating about 300 first responders today, and it went really well. And they'll continue to vaccinate them tomorrow, Wednesday. And then the following Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, they're rescheduling or scheduling their booster shots before they do leave the clinic. The governor, lieutenant governor, and Secretary Sutters are doing a site visit to the EDS site tomorrow to thank the volunteers and speak to some of the first responders. And they're also doing their press conference from that location as well, which is the senior center. And we don't have any other details about what public health will be responsible for in terms of the mega EDS or the local EDS and who's next. So we're hoping to hear more this week from Mass DPH. And Mass DPH also is setting up their own state-run EDS, which is to be announced.
Mhm. Any questions from the board members for Julie on anything she went over? Dan?
Julie, so the second shot that was scheduled, I know it has to be the Moderna vaccine, the same vaccine. Does it have to be at that same clinic? Are these folks able to
That's
get
where
it
they're, that's where they're rescheduling them to make sure that they do get that second dose.
at the same
That's
place?
required.
Yep. Thanks.
Anyone else? Any other questions for Julie, at least what she went over? Nope. Seeing, nope, Dan again.
Just one other quick thing. How many approximately, I don't know if you were there, how many vaccinators are there? And are they utilizing some of the students, say at Mass College of Pharmacy?
I don't know about the students from Mass College of Pharmacy, but I know that there was a training on Saturday. I think it's for the students from UMass
Okay,
that they held.
Yep.
And then the second part of your question, I don't know the exact number. I was there on Saturday, helping them with the setup. From my recollection, which I'm not 100% on it. I don't want to even guess
Yeah.
how many people are vaccinating. I really don't know.
yeah, I
I
think they
know
were
that
trying to,
there are 2 people.
I think they were trying to set it up in 2 different shifts because it's from 8 to 6. So they're just splitting shifts, and it sounded like they had enough people for at least today and tomorrow.
Yep.
That's great. Thanks.
Anything else? All right. So then, Julie, I don't know if you want to stay on when we go through anything regarding like the COVID updates. I know some of it you touched on already, but
That's up to you guys.
let's look at the rest of the agenda. We already pretty much covered that. Dan?
Sorry, I'm kind of talkative here this evening, but we might want to look at item number 5 while Julie's here.
Yes.
Yeah, just that's why I was scrolling down.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll jump out of order quickly. So our FEP rep used to be Phil, and then where he retired. And then Dan was always the kind of backup alternate. So now with Phil retiring, I think the consensus was to hopefully vote to appoint Julie as the FEP rep, and then Dan would stay as the backup alternate. First, obviously, that's something, Julie, that you can handle with everything going on before we go down. If there's any questions from the board members or discussion, we kind of put it on there as kind of what we considered almost like the no-brainer as Phil's replacement, but obviously want to offer you a chance to speak.
I actually attended the last meeting, and I actually found it very interesting and very helpful. So, I mean, I would be happy to take on that role for you and just provide you with information after the meetings.
Great, thank you. Dan?
And that's okay with me to be a backup again if someone wants to.
Great. Any other board members? Any questions before, any motions? All right, so I think, if I remember correctly, with this, we always have motions, discussion, and we have to do an official vote to appoint. So is there a motion for who we want to appoint for the FEP rep and the backup alternate?
This is Bill Muller. I'll move that we appoint Julie Van Arsdalen as our representative.
And do we want to appoint a backup or alternate also that we vote on at the same time?
Certainly.
All right, and would that be, you have to,
I'm sorry. That would be whoever you said it was going to be.
I think Dan offered himself back up again.
There you go, there you
for
go.
alternate.
I'll second that motion to appoint Julie Van Arsdalen as our FEP rep and Dan as backup.
All right, and any discussion on the motion before we take a vote? All right, well, then we'll do a roll call vote. Dan Finn,
Dan Finn, aye.
Austin Magnet,
Magnan, aye.
Josh Briggs,
Josh Briggs, aye.
William Muller,
Bill Muller, aye.
Karen Gwazowski-Govin, aye. So voted and passed. Thank you, everyone. All right, let's jump, just looking back before. So Julia, like I said, if you want to stick around for at least the COVID updates, just in case any questions come up that we have, that's probably the really only last topic since we already covered the first responder side of things.
Sure.
So I'll just kind of start off with the usual. So as of today, January 11th, Grafton's been informed of a total of 667 confirmed positive COVID-19 cases since we began tracking cases back in March. As of January 7th, so that was last Thursday, Grafton is still at a red or high risk status on the Commonwealth's weekly report. And like many other towns and cities in the whole state and country, pretty much we're seeing a similar rise in cases at this point. I think I saw on the news before I logged on that at least 219 communities now in the state are red communities. So it just keeps on going up. Before it used to be only half, which was already a scary number to begin with. So now it's even worse. We did have, last week, we did have a few days in a row, I'd say, where we had lower cases, single digit cases, compared to what we had seen of late. Unfortunately, then we've had, a couple days now where we've had higher cases, and I think today was 9 again. So it's, I'd say we're still seeing the predicted surge that was coming following Christmas and New Year's with the travel and gatherings, and just the regular spread we've been seeing since the whole area is obviously at the high risk status pretty much around us. At this point, from a Commonwealth perspective, the only real big news is that the additional restrictions on top of the rollback, so these are the additional restrictions, primarily capacity limits, having hospitals not schedule anything inpatient related that was not critical, gathering limits, etc. Those were originally going to go until at least noontime on January 10th, and then the governor did extend those now through at least January 24th. And so we'll see as we get closer if the Commonwealth will extend them any further or not. So more to come on that, I'm sure, as we get closer. I already mentioned that the government continues to express concerns around the surge that came out of the holidays, similar to the Thanksgiving surge we saw. We did touch briefly as part of the Alliance update around the first responder piece for vaccines, and that the Commonwealth has released, and then they'd made a few updates to the expected phases and timing for the vaccine rollout in Massachusetts. And the breakdown, if anyone watching is interested, the state does have a nice chart that breaks it down on the website, which goes through the different phases 1, 2, and 3, and then a little bit more detail because phase 1 and phase 2 have multiple layers amongst them, kind of like subparts. So first responders, for example, that we just touched on, that just started, is one of those subgroups within phase 1. And similarly, phase 2 will have a few different subgroups to it. At this point, really, it's unknown, as Julie mentioned, as to what involvement, if any, local town Board of Health will even have when it comes to the additional phases. Similarly to the first responders, we didn't know until really the Commonwealth kind of started to finalize some plans to say, here's how we want to approach first responders. Similarly, they're working to figure out, okay, next phases or parts of phases are going to be X, Y, and Z. Here's how we think as a Commonwealth and the communities within the Commonwealth. Here's how we think we can even accomplish this based on resources. So we really have no idea at this point what, if anything, we as a town will have. Anyone who knows me, I like to be a planner. So not knowing is not something that I like, to say the least. And it's hard because we get questions all the time. When can I get the vaccine? Where will I get the vaccine? And trust me, we all wish we had the answers, but right now we don't. But at some point in time we will. And as soon as we know whether it's something from the local Board of Health side, if we're going to run clinics like we do our flu clinics, or if it's going to be a super or mega EDS site, as we're calling it, that maybe the Worcester Alliance will run, or maybe it's something state related, whatever the case may be, as soon as we know when something has been solidified, we will obviously communicate that out to the appropriate populations to make sure everyone's as aware as quickly as possible on what is available, the process, how to set up appointments, whatever the case may be. But it's hard at this point. We can't put anything out there because we have no clue yet, because we haven't been notified from the Commonwealth side what we may do, let alone where we can tell people to go at this point. Other than that, really, just the biggest thing is just reminding everyone from a citizen and a business perspective that we all just need to continue to be vigilant with the restrictions and the requirements, like the mask order, the social distancing, the hand washing and sanitizing, all of the gathering limits we hear about, the specific business restrictions, because we are far from out of the woods at this point. And even once you've been vaccinated, it doesn't mean that magically COVID's gone away for actually you or the people around you. So that's why they keep stressing that even once you've received your 2 doses of your vaccine, that doesn't mean the vaccine prevents you from getting COVID. It just typically has shown, based on studies, that the vaccine will help prevent you from getting severe illness if you were to acquire COVID. It also hasn't been proven yet that it won't stop you from transmitting COVID to someone else. So you might still get COVID. You probably have a better shot of not knowing you have it, because you might be getting a mild to asymptomatic case. And unfortunately, you could spread it to your loved ones and friends unknowingly. So just wanted to continue to stress that we have to keep with all the precautions until we know otherwise at this point. Any questions on that part of the COVID update side of the world? Anyone, anything else from the board members? Julie, did I miss anything?
You did a good job, no?
All right, so we'll move on. I think pretty much Julie already covered, between Julie and then my little bit afterwards, the first responders vaccines. Those started up, and it's progressing. Obviously, today was the first day, so happy to hear the numbers that you provided, Julie. And I'm glad that the Commonwealth was able to figure that out, and the Alliance was able to set up the super site, I think, as it's being called. So hopefully everyone who wants one can get one as quickly as possible, and then obviously make sure that everyone goes back who's gotten it for their second shot, because that's obviously critical. So Julie, that's really, from like Alliance input perspective, the biggest. I think we've covered everything now. Just looking through. So if you've got something else to get to, or I'm sure more to reports to write, et cetera, if you want to catch up on stuff.
Yeah, it's been crazy today.
Well, thank you. EDS drill updates. Dan?
Yep.
All right.
This is Dan Finn, and on Friday morning, Bill Muller and I met with Chief Crapo, Ray Mead, and Pam Reardon at the high school. And coincidentally, as the high school was getting out for a half day, that timing wasn't perfect, but in any event. And we went over, the site itself, and through an aerial map that the chief provided, we were able to come up with a traffic pattern for the drill. And we're working on tweaking that for Saturday. And but basically, it's going to come up through the three or four different stations of an entrance, triage. Can't think of them off my head, but anyway, registration, medical review, and around to the back of the high school to the side where the gym is, where there happen to be a couple of restrooms if necessary there. but it's two lanes, and it looks like a really good setup to provide the vaccine, whatever we're assuming is going to be a vaccine in our drill. So we're still planning on having the drill at 10 o'clock on Saturday. It's going to be outdoors, so people are going to have to dress warm. Fortunately, there's not going to be any snow, but hopefully there's not much rain.
I'd say I just looked at the forecast and saw that it was supposed to be rain, so.
Yeah, so, we're kind of hoping that comes through earlier than later, although we might have to bring umbrellas, and we hope to have a couple of tents. And Jamie Terry is she's going to be the one that's reviewing it with us to approve the plan. And I saw her on this past Saturday in Oxford at a drill, and she's very competent, and she'll keep things moving along pretty quickly, I think. So I don't anticipate it's going to be more than an hour. It might even be less if we can get set up quickly. And that's pretty much the update. We're still shooting for Saturday at this point.
All right. So I guess what's, just for my own knowledge, and anyone who wants to participate or is planning to participate, knowing there's rain in the forecast, yes, no snow, it's supposed to be warmer, but
Yep.
What's kind of the cutoff day time for
Yeah.
making a decision on Saturday or the following Saturday?
Right, I think Thursday we'll get together with, Bill and I were sort of co-directors of this, and we flipped a coin on Friday, and I lost, so I'm the director. And but he's going to be the backup guy. But we'll get together with a few key partners and make a decision on Thursday whether we push it to 1 o'clock on Saturday or push it out to the following Saturday. But I think the further away we go, it's going to get colder and more of a chance of snow. So worst cases, I think we might bump it out to the afternoon on Saturday, and we'll make a decision on Thursday. Pam has, what I understand, a half a dozen or so volunteers from CERT, and Mary Ann's thinking she might have 8 or 10 volunteers from the Medical Reserve Corps. So that's a pretty good group, at least to get briefed on what could possibly be a dispensing site, by springtime.
All right. Any questions, discussion, board members?
I would commend Dan on the organizational skills that he's demonstrated in this activity. It does appear that this is fairly well designed for a drive-through vaccination effort. There's kind of a circuitous route that goes around the high school, and the administration would actually be on the side of the gymnasium. And then there'd be a parking lot available for observation of people for any sort of reaction or anything of that sort shortly after that. But as you alluded to, the plans for the vaccine are still very much up in the air. The EDS, as I understand it, is a new person to this process. It's a pre-existing entity that could conceivably be employed to administer vaccines in this sort of situation. And I do think that it wouldn't require a lot of barriers to direct people and so forth, because actually the road around the high school is actually well suited to that. The chief did mention that you could go to someplace like Wyman Gordon, which has a huge, parking lot with no interior barriers to it, but then you would have to contend with putting up cones and other things that in fact would have to be used to direct people. So I think this would be successful if we're called upon to be the entity that's facilitating administration to our local personnel.
Dan?
And just to dovetail on that, for the indoor drill that we've had in the past, we've had volunteers park way off to the right of the building. In this case, I think it's going to be better to have volunteers park right in front of the entrance to the building, sort of away from the traffic flow. And then also they'll be directed after vaccination or down to this middle lot where they're going to wait for 15 to 20 minutes. And it was a good suggestion I heard on Saturday by Jamie that there'll be in this instance, a MedStar ambulance there with medics, but if anyone has any difficulties of, dizziness, a rash or difficulty breathing, whatever, discomfort, they're going to be instructed to put on the flashes on their car, and these folks will come over to them. So anyway, there's a lot of other little details that I think will be good for people to hear about on Saturday.
Great. Anything else? Anyone regarding the EDS drill? Nope. All right. Not, then we shall move on. All right. April, May, and June 2021 meeting schedule. All right. So the next two meetings we have, the regularly scheduled meetings, I should say, are February 8th and March 8th. So if we were sticking by a monthly perspective, we'd be at April 5th, which is actually the first, just the way the calendar falls, it's the first Monday in April.
Yep.
The day after Easter.
Yep.
That works for me.
All right.
Yep, that's fine.
Then if we stick with the month, then we're at May 3rd. But I want to call out the fact that if we go 4 weeks, we're at Memorial Day. So we have the decision of, do we do 4 weeks from March 8th and get April 5th and then May 3rd, but then not until June 7th? Or do we push out one of those somewhere along the way and be like at a 5-week period? It's having, I would say, what people's vacation schedules are, but that's,
Right.
yeah, kind of like last year at this point.
Maybe April, maybe 5 weeks.
You froze up a little bit, Austin, sorry. Or at least you're down to
Oh, I
my
was
end.
gonna say April 5th and then May 10th, make it 5 weeks in the middle. I think Dan had a suggestion.
Yeah, I saw Dan, your hand was up.
Yeah, that's fine with me. I'm flexible, but that makes sense if you just want to call those out.
That's, I mean, that's fine. Obviously, we're usually pretty flexible. If something, we can always schedule something in between, obviously, if we need to. So then if we did April 5th, May 10th, and then June 7th.
Yep.
We'll have those in, and if, don't think there was any, there's no other holidays we have to worry about from a federal or state perspective where the would be business on that day. All right, and obviously if anyone comes up with anything, we can always tweak the schedule since we've got some time, obviously, before we hit those meetings. All right, so then the last topic on the agenda is the Mask Up Grafton campaign, discussion and potential determination on if and how we want to proceed. So I don't know if Dan, you want to you've been the one kind of leading the charge as such out of all of us on this one. So if you
Yeah, I
want
don't know if everyone was able to received, and I can't see that. This on email, a breakdown of costs proposed by Sunshine Sign.
Yeah.
And this is three different types of signs and the prices that they're proposing. And I guess, Nancy, I think you may have reached out to accounting. Do you know what kind of money is in this CARE fund that is available to us to spend for something like this?
Nope.
I see Nancy's name, but
I see you're on there. I don't see you're muted or anything. Oh, we lost her. I knew she was having trouble earlier, so.
yeah.
I think she reached out, like you said, I think she reached out to accounting. And of course, we're in the middle of switching over from a responsible finance person right now. So I don't think she heard back.
Yeah.
At least as of earlier today, when I asked her. Of course, earlier today, we didn't have the proposal either. But
Right.
I figured in anticipation of us getting the proposal, it didn't sound like she had heard back yet as to how much.
So I don't know if we can make a definitive decision on this anyway tonight because of that, but it seems to me a month and a half ago, the number of like $9,000 in an account was available for us to do something like this with. The proposal from Sunshine Sign for the door or window plexiglass holders or frames, and as well as the inserts of the Mask Up Grafton campaign was $95 a piece, or for 50 of them, they were estimating we would need, it was $44,750. And then there's a vinyl banner to go perhaps down at the municipal center for $515. And then thirdly, they were proposing a A-frame style, double-sided, also with the, as I checked back with Maria today, the possibility of inserting another message, just as it would be with the door signs, which again would be free to the proprietors or to the businesses in town should they want to have them. So they're reusable not only in the short term of 2 months from now, if something else comes up that we want to get a message out to everybody, but even down the road, 6 months or hopefully 8 or 9 or 10 months from now, we're not going to have to get a message about COVID out, and they could use it for whatever they'd like in their doorway. And we did hear from Bob in the town that we don't need a prior approval from the board or from the town. And if it's something for the town and from the Board of Health, we're sort of grandfathered in. And it would be nice to get the town logo on there. I don't know what everybody else thinks, but my general thought is we might want to skip the banner because it's not reusable and it's $500. And I think the other two, having the flexibility, so to speak, would be worthwhile. And Sunshine Sign would assist with distributing them and or moving them or whatever. And replacement cards, if we came up with some other message, were going to be $5 a piece, which I think is pretty reasonable. Anyway, and it's a local company that I think is worth supporting. They've been doing this at other towns throughout the state, actually.
Nancy just texted me, looks like there's about $9,500 available.
So anyway, I don't know what everybody else thinks, but Nancy and I had discussed these things, and it seems to me if we went with the first proposal of a sign and then the A-frame sign that could be moved, it could be up at the gazebo in the center of town. It could be moved to the South Grafton area at different times, but that would come in right around $5,000, just $5,040 to be exact, which seems to me reasonable. I don't know what everybody else thinks.
Oh, I'm sorry. Have we established that some of these vendors that are more kind of national vendors like Cumberland Farms or Dunkin' Donuts or some of the others are willing to have these signs on their entryways? Or I know that question had come up and I didn't hear whether in fact we know the answer to that. I think conceptually it certainly has merit, and I think would be in the spirit of the reason these funds exist. And I do think having it be more of a local Grafton oriented publicity campaign would be desirable and advantageous, hopefully, to get people compliant with it. I'm just wondering whether in fact if we have signs for all these places and then they say, well, our corporate office won't let us do it. I mean, I would be very surprised if that's the case. I mean, you could potentially ask the person at Sunshine Sign about if they're doing this for other towns, it's got to be a Cumbies in another town or a Dunkin' Donuts or some other, more national sort of company that we could ask, I guess.
One, just one thing to jump in besides that obviously valid question, because we don't want to go through all the trouble of this. Not that we don't have local businesses too, but when we're estimating, obviously, we don't want to estimate all of those if we end up, making 10 extra signs, let's say, that, we're not going to be able to use. Nancy just sent another message because she's still having issues that accounting's asking now if that 9,500 is our portion of the funds, and she's not sure what that question means. So she needs to get more clarification. So I would say we don't know if that 9,500 is all ours to use or not, just based on that question she just got.
Maybe it's first come, first serve.
Dan?
Yeah, my understanding was that if we don't use it, someone else in the Alliance towns or someone else would use it, but that was sort of designated to Grafton, as far as I know, through the Board of Health. But again, we'll get that clarification. And to Bill's point, I guess my experience over the years trying to get up a poster for, say, the Historical Society or something or other fairly benign, you would think. We did run into difficulty at the chains because they do have corporate rules, and it's just a lot of paperwork to get it done, even though the manager, would like to have something like that. But even then, I think, maybe we could propose or say we want to go with 40 signs if they can hold that price. So it might be 4,000 instead of 4,700. I can't do that math in my head. And then if we have to have more made, we could, just as a thought. So I don't know whether.
We're good from the finance perspective.
Yeah.
Just go back. Based on what we're talking about, this would never go over.
Right.
We could approve it contingent upon the availability of financing.
Yeah,
Right.
like official availability, I'm always one, I want something in writing that, says, yes, we're good, you can use that, not back and forth as much. I trust, obviously, but just it doesn't hurt. So that way, if ever someone were to question it down the line and we have to provide proof of, expenses, as you often
Right.
do with these types of things, where you allocated certain funds, at least then we'd have it as official backup that we were even able to have that much amount to begin with.
Right. So, I don't know. Austin, how do you and Josh feel about this? Do you think it's worthwhile?
I do think it's worthwhile. I'm not sure if we're going to need 50 of them. I'm almost thinking maybe get like 20 out there, and if we need more, we'll get 10 or 15 more if needed, instead of just jumping up to 50.
Yeah.
But I also agree with your idea of nixing the banner and just going with the A-frame and the inserts. I mean, I'd even forgetting 2 A-frames, put them 2 different places, move them
Mhm.
around.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, because at least those you can, potentially change, because we know the original mask order that's written, the draft versions of signs we saw has the old mask order on them, which said, you had to wear a mask if you couldn't social distance. Now we know since November, the mask order had changed, and it's like public place, indoor, outdoor, doesn't matter if you can social distance, you have to wear your mask. So at some point in time, hopefully sooner than later, that mask order will maybe hopefully revert back to the only if you can't social distance. And then maybe there's another level beyond that before it comes down to okay, we don't need to deal with masks ever again, hopefully. So it'd be better than spending $500 on a banner that we have no clue potentially how quickly it might be out of date. And we have no way of plug and play in terms of changing it other than spending another $500 to have a new one made and put back up.
Yeah, hi, this is Josh. I agree with both Austin and Karen. I think, maybe if we just sort of keep it more in the vein of like buckle up kind of thing, mask up, rather than being like very specific, because I don't think this is going anywhere really soon. And I think we just kind of say like Grafton wants you to wear your mask or something in that vein, rather than being really specific about the details. Then maybe it could last. There is signage up on the Massachusetts, the mass.gov thing that updates that you could, like, as a business, you can print out as it changes. So as far as like needing the actual, specific verbiage for like whatever the current mandate is, that's something people can download and print right from wherever their business is. But as far as like a general theme of like, we're in Grafton, we want to support the concept of everyone wearing masks. And maybe keeping it a little bit vague as far as the information. I think that might be something that can carry forward rather than having to change it several times.
Dan?
So Karen, would you entertain a motion? I'm not so sure I should make it, but that the Board of Health votes to allow like a subcommittee of, say, myself and Nancy to negotiate with Sunshine Sign for the types of signs we talked about, the acrylic insert holders, and then one or two A-frames, and to spend not more than $5,000 if the money is in fact ours. I mean, that sounds like a long thing, but also, we might want to go 25 or 30 with an option to reorder 25. But I think it's time we should kind of move this off the front burner onto the plate. Yeah.
Is there a second to the motion?
This is Bill
I wish
Muller.
can
I would second
conceptualize
it.
all
Yep.
2 seconds.
that. Yeah, exactly.
I think Bill started talking first.
So I can be the second then.
Perfect.
All right, we'll do. Is there any discussion on the motion that's on the table? All right, hearing none, I'll do a vote. Dan Finn,
Dan Finn, aye.
Austin Magnan,
Magnan, aye.
Josh Briggs,
Josh Briggs, aye.
William Muller,
Bill Muller, aye.
Karen Wistowski Govan, aye. And beyond the signs, just something I wanted to call out because I had sat in on the conversation was with Sunshine Sign last week. I know they mentioned also, and this is something that I didn't see in the quote, but can be discussed, and it didn't necessarily sound like it was going to be anything that had a financial cost to it anyways, was potential social media campaign. Also, like for Instagram, like using whatever we, decide on, say for a sign for, say, Instagram or Facebook, that we could put on any town of Grafton sites that could be used, ever so often, put something out there. And I know little plug, because Colleen Roy had joined us or part of that from the select board, and she had mentioned like cover your mug or something, as one of the more, because trying to make it a little bit more lighthearted too, rather than, such a serious thing. So get a little bit of humor, catch people's eye, that type of thing along the way. So just tossing that idea out and conveying that, that she had mentioned after that meeting. So, so something like that, kind of a little bit more playful and lighthearted, but getting the point across at the same time to people. Yep, Dan?
Yep, I do recall Maria saying that they would support that, and at no extra cost, just to promote the whole idea. And I think those are all good ideas.
All right. If there's nothing else on that, would be excited to hear and then obviously see some of the ideas that come out of it, you know, more formalized ideas coming out of it. And I think it'll be definitely be beneficial for the town to have some signage up there that's more uniform. All right, let's see. Any under old business, just one thing I wanted to call out is I know Nancy's still plugging away in her spare time when she's not doing COVID, which I don't really know at this, after all these months, there is no spare time. Plugging away on all the license and permit renewals and all of that. So she's going to let us know once there's a good stack of them in there so we can kind of go through what we discussed around like taking turns going in individually and just signing our lives away pretty much on the permits and doing it appropriately, social distance and safely. So more to come on that.
Karen, do they require each signature? They require all signatures?
They need at least 3
Okay.
of the members need to sign. So yeah, so technically we do not need all 5 of us to touch every single one of them. But like we said, we didn't want it to be, you know, going in and, you know, signing 5 and then having to go back in and sign another 50 or another 10 or something. So just trying to be mindful of, we're not all sitting in a room doing this all in 1 or 2 full sweeps. So more to come on that once, you know, she lets us know. So I think other than that, it was just mail correspondence. I think Austin, U.S. clerk, there was one email Nancy had sent over of correspondence that was received. I think it was today.
Yeah, received today. To the Grafton Board of Health, but from Bill Humans, 297 Providence Road, South Grafton. Subject: vaccine info regarding scheduling for senior residents. Can you guys hear me okay? Is my connection good?
Yeah, right now.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. It's been going in and out. It says, good evening. Sent as public input for your Board of Health meeting tonight. COVID updates reports are provided daily online showing the number of cases and the total to date. However, as a highly at-risk senior Grafton resident, I feel more specific information should be provided regarding seniors actually getting the inoculation shots. It's important that the critical mass, such as first responders, medical personnel, and others as designated by the state, is inoculated. I would like to see a daily update more specific as to the when, where, and how greatly at-risk senior citizen residents can get their vaccine shots. Thank you for your consideration of my concern, and thanks for the hard and dedicated work you are doing to help protect all Grafton residents. Cordially, Bill and Pat Humans.
Thank you, Austin, and thank you, Bill and Pat. You know, as previously mentioned, I don't know if they're watching, but as previously mentioned, unfortunately, where the town has no idea yet at this point, because the Commonwealth hasn't finished any type of plans yet regarding seniors or comorbid conditions, let alone when we get down to the general public. They're still trying to figure out everything from phase 1 at this point and how they're going to do it. They just finalized the first responders very shortly before we started doing final first responders today. Once we know information, we will start getting that information out to the appropriate populations. But at this point, putting out any type of daily updates would actually, there'd be no updates at this point other than we don't know yet. And we can't rule out that we will or will not be tasked with, as a local Board of Health, doing vaccines for seniors, comorbid conditions, general public. So I wouldn't want to put out anything that says one way or the other yet either, because that wouldn't be fair. I wouldn't want to say we're not going to be doing something and then find out that we would be doing something, because that wouldn't be fair to the population either. So much more to come as once we actually learn what we're going to be doing or not doing. All right, I think that was it for correspondence. So that just leaves upcoming meetings, besides the 3 we just aligned on, are February 8th and March 8th, usual time. And if there's nothing else, then I think that was it for the agenda. So
Okay. This is Dan Finn. I'll make a motion to adjourn this meeting and hope everyone has a nice evening and good week.
This is Bill Muller. I'll second that.
all right, and
Oh.
then we'll do a roll call vote. Oop,
Dan Finn, aye.
Okay.
And then I have one thing I want to mention afterwards.
well, you do it before we close.
Okay, just before we close and have a vote on closing the meeting, I will get confirmation by Thursday noontime or 1 o'clock to all the potential volunteers, including you folks, about the time of Saturday's EDS drill. And otherwise, I vote to adjourn the meeting.
Austin Magnet,
Magnan, aye. Have a good night, y'all.
Josh Briggs,
Josh Briggs, aye. Good night.
and Bill Muller,
Bill Muller, aye.
and Karen Wasowski Govin. I hope everyone has a good evening.